Renewable generation in Scotland has taken off hugely over the last 10 years or so. Just last year we passed the barrier of 10 gigawatts of installed renewable capacity in Scotland, and that's driving us towards our 2020 target to produce the equivalent of 100% of our electricity demand from renewables in 2020, and we're going to carry on going further with that. So we've set ourselves another target which is going to meet 50% of all energy demand across electricity, heat and transport in 2030. The Scottish electricity grid is capable of accepting the number of electric vehicles that we would expect to come along in order to meet the commitments we've made around decarbonising transport. We think that this is a great opportunity to find a new source of electricity demand to complement the huge increase in renewable generation that we've seen in Scotland and we expect to see over the next few years. To make sure that the grid is ready, we need to be prepared. We need to think about what this is going to mean for electricity demand, for electricity peak demand, as well as the total amount of energy that's going to need to flow across these networks. And to do that, we need to work closely with the network companies and with Ofgem, who is their regulator, to ensure that the networks get built out at appropriate times, in appropriate places, and using appropriate levels of flexibility in a way that gives the capacity we need, but also ensures that customers get a good return on the investment that they're making. I think ensuring a good way of managing charging flexibly is going to be really critical to ensuring that the networks that get built and the way that they are used are efficient and we get the most out of them. We're going to need a combination, I think, of more network capacity, but flexibility to ensure that that capacity is well used. And this will be important to delivering infrastructure that's required for a large EV rollout over the future. We've seen the start of that with some managed charging solutions provided by some of the supply companies. They focus at the moment on system issues, things like what's the wholesale price of electricity across the whole of Britain. As we move into the 2020s, we need to think about bringing in measurements and signals related to network constraints, more local to where the EVs are connected, whether that's right down on the last few meters of wire into a house, or up at the transmission level, looking at constraints in that area. The Scottish Government are doing quite a lot to get us ready for that. We already have a world-leading public charging network in Scotland for EVs. It's called Charge Place Scotland, and it's fast approaching 1,000 public chargers available across the whole of Scotland, including around 200 rapid chargers. We've committed to about £50 million a year investment to continue upgrading that network and getting it ready. And we feel that that puts Scotland in a position where people will be able to drive anywhere in Scotland and have confidence that they can get a charge where and when they need it. Another thing that we are doing and working really hard on is much closer engagement with the network companies, with the DNOs. So we've started that process of sitting down with them and helping them to understand what we want in terms of EVs, other ULEVs and other changes to the transport system, and helping them to explain to us what the implications are for the network. I think importantly, what we need to do is give increased confidence and certainty to the networks and their regulator and to the market that this is something that is going to happen in Scotland. We want to see Scotland at the forefront of the EV revolution, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that that is the case. It's really important that there's progress made on public transport as well as on sort of private transport. We've funded projects, for example, we've got a big project in Aberdeen with a number of partners which is delivering hydrogen buses in Aberdeen. When you go to Edinburgh, there's a growing number of electric battery buses in Edinburgh, and decarbonising that public transport is really important. And even broader than that, just ensuring that public transport as a method of getting around the country is convenient, safe and well suited to what the people who live in Scotland want is really important to, in some ways, reducing the need for private vehicles in some circumstances as well. Vehicle-to-grid technology will be important in this, and I just want to differentiate a little bit actually between vehicle-to-system technology and vehicle-to-network technology. And the reason why I make that distinction is that I think vehicle-to-system technology is already with us. We have a number of supply companies that are offering opportunities for people with EVs and home chargers to take advantage of changes in the wholesale price of energy throughout the day. Consumers allow those companies to take control of when their EV is charged in a point in which the whole GB electricity system finds it most appropriate. As we go into the future, that link between the vehicle and the local network will need to become much clearer. And that link is something that is still developing, I think. That will involve making sure that there's monitoring equipment on the local networks, providing a signal, a control system and a communication system to communicate to the relevant electric vehicle charging points that are impacting on that bit of the network, and using that system in a way that is appropriate for customers to manage those grid constraints. And that is something that's still developing, I think.